McGuire Management Group. If you don't know, owns and operates the Murfreesboro franchises here, in Murfreesboro. So Bill Mills is going to give us an introduction, and then come on up, Jonathan. And this will be your quicker. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep it short because this is the guy we want to hear from. He's going to talk about franchising, I suppose. He's a big supporter of the pancake breakfast. He brings all this stuff. And so if you want to give us a word on franchising or anything in that area you want to talk about,
So I had.
Jonathan McGuire.
So my name is Jonathan McGuire. I am the CEO and owner of McGuire Management Group. I had notes, and when I left this morning, I left them on my desk. So we'll just go with off the top of my head. It's like the notes don't matter anyway. That's just a guide to tell me how far off topic I've wandered whenever I'm speaking. So I'll give you a little bit about our company, McGuire Management Group. We call it the group because it's a group of I think 9 companies now. We've got interest in transportation. My wife has a real estate company that she calls McGuire Property Management Group, where she rents out some vacation homes and things like that here. We had some here, and we've got some up at Center Hill Lake and some down in Florida, and she does a good job with that. We've got a service company that does both commercial and residential maintenance services. And this all came out of the McDonald's franchise businesses, and there's a collection of companies that we have that own our franchise locations. We are at currently 20 locations in the Middle Tennessee area. We sold one a couple of years ago, and we are currently building 2 more, one here in Rutherford County, actually one here in Murfreesboro, just down towards Shelbyville on South Church Street. We're breaking ground on that hopefully next week. So we'll be up to 22 locations, and 12 of those locations will be here in Murfreesboro, 13 locations in Rutherford County. And that's the main crux of our business. In fact, most of the other businesses have developed out of the management company that run those McDonald's locations. I got into the business back about 2013, I believe. My father was, let's just say when I was growing up, my father worked at McDonald's. I mean, he worked as a swing manager when he was first married, and he worked as worked his way up. And the whole time while I was in school, he was either a general manager of one location or a supervisor of multiple locations. And it wasn't until 1998 that he started owning a franchise location. I always like to tell the story. If you're talking about the McDonald's franchise business, it is, for those of us who have been in the system like myself and Mr. Mills, we love this brand in almost an unhealthy way. It is part of our DNA. Lots of people like to say we got ketchup running through our veins. It is a way of life, and it is something that's been part of my life ever since I can remember. So I'll back up to 1974. I was born in 1977, so I wasn't even born yet in 1974, but my father was working washing dishes at a little restaurant in Glasgow, Kentucky, and they came around and said, money's a little tight, budget's a little tight, we're going to have to cut hours, and since you were the youngest person on staff, we're going to go ahead and cut your hours down. So he said, well, that's unacceptable, because even though he was 17 years old, he had a wife at home, and she had a little boy, my older brother. So as a 17-year-old father, homeowner, I should say homeowner. The home that they had was an old farmhouse that my grandfather, my mother's father, had let them live in, where my dad would have to get up in the morning and use a car jack to jack the porch up off the floor because it was sinking down into the mud. And then he would go to school, and he would have to come home at lunch, and he would have to jack the porch up a little bit more. And then he would come home after school, and he would have to jack the porch up a little bit more, and then he'd have to go to work. They didn't have indoor plumbing, but that's how they lived. They were happy, and you got no choice but to be happy in those circumstances. You do what you can do. So when they said they was going to cut his hours, he looked across the street in Glasgow, Kentucky. There's a place now referred to as Hamburger Hill. He walked across the street, and they were moving some dirt around on a bulldozer. He climbed up on the bulldozer. 17-year-old kid, little skinny country boy, pulled up on the bulldozer and asked him what's he building there and how could he get a job at it. The guy said, well, we're building a McDonald's restaurant. He said, what's that? They never heard of it. 74. The guy driving the bulldozer put him in charge with the owner-operator, the McDonald's approved owner-operator that was going to be buying this location, who had already had a location in Franklin, Kentucky. My dad got in touch with him, and this gentleman named Jim Burrow, you may remember Jim. Jim Burrow put my dad basically in his he had a pack of kids that was basically the same age as my dad, and basically adopted him in, and they became his management team for that new restaurant. So starting in '74, my dad started working at McDonald's along with the Burl organization, who as of today, they're in their third generation and very good friends of mine. And I always say, if I wasn't a McGuire, I'd love to be a Burl, because they are just fantastic people. But my dad started working there. He ended up working for 3 different owner-operator organizations, from Glasgow, Kentucky to Nashville, Tennessee, all the way down to Huntsville, Alabama, where I was born. He never worked for the company, but he always told me what an opportunity this was. And he was very proud to be part of the McDonald's system back when he was a crew person, up to management, up to supervisor. And in 1998, he became an owner-operator. Now, to put that timeline in context, I moved out of my parents' house in, I think, 1994 or 95. I can't remember. I get a little fuzzy on the details. I'm getting a little older. I got married in 1996. My first child was born in 1997. And my father was able to buy his first restaurant in 1998. So I did not grow up the child of a McDonald's owner-operator, which some people think is a totally different lifestyle. And I found out that it is. It's just a way different lifestyle than what I thought. Right? But I grew up with my father working at McDonald's, and I never knew that we were poor. In fact, I still don't think we were poor. We didn't want for anything. Anything we wanted was provided, and it was provided because my parents loved each other and they worked hard, and McDonald's gave us the opportunity to provide. I went off and had my own career. I was programming computers for years and years. I had over 20 years in systems development. I worked in every industry from financial to music. I built guitars and drum sets for a while. I ran a company for Gibson Guitar. But I was really good with computers. You know, some people can look at a car and understand just how it works. Yeah, that's not me. I can't do that. But if you give me a computer, I know how that works. That makes sense to me. Seeing the inside of a program and seeing the code to a program really makes sense to me. So that's what I was doing for over 20 years. So I came to talk to my dad about 2012, and I said, Dad, I'm gonna leave the bank. I was working for SunTrust Bank out of Atlanta at the time. I had an office in Atlanta. I said, I'm gonna leave the bank and I'm gonna create a software company. And I know how to do software, but I don't know anything about running a company. And I know that he had gone through the same struggles a few years before, because back in '98, he knew how to run restaurants. He didn't know how to run a business. And he had to go through the learning curve of trying to figure that out. And when he did, I went to him and I said, hey, what do I need to do to incorporate? Do I need to get an attorney? Do I need to get a CPA? What kind of licensing do I do? Where do I put this business? You know, that kind of thing. He says, why are you going to reinvent the wheel? He says, at some point, I'm going to need to sell my business. And we have worked hard. Our family has worked hard. And we would like to be able to continue this legacy beyond my generation. And I think you would be perfect to be able to come in and work with me and continue this legacy. Now, having worked at McDonald's when I was 15 years old, I figured out that a quarter pounder meant a whole lot more to some people than that $3.24 that they were paying for it at the time. I had said I will never work in this industry. And it wasn't because I didn't love the arches. I couldn't stand the customers. They were just mean. They were just mean. And I made that comment as a 15-year-old. So in 2014, I come in. My father says, we'll be business partners. You bring your savings, you buy in, you build equity, and then we'll have a 5-year plan and you can buy me out. Keep in mind, this is 2014 when this happened. You retired from the McDonald's system in 2000. So about 14 years after Mr. Mills has exited the system. I'm learning the system as we go, working with my dad, which is just one of the proudest moments of my life or proudest things that I can say in my life is being able to work with my dad. But I'm learning this franchise system that has provided for us for so long, and learning how unique it is, because I had looked at other businesses. I had looked at ways to make money and provide for my family. And this brand, I thought I was going to be managing people who had 4 to 8 years of education. They're making 6 figures, and that's who I thought I was going to be managing. And I go and start managing teenagers who don't know how to use a broom, right? And all my years of experience, I had lots of management experience, and I had experience running businesses. I knew how to run P&Ls. I knew how to run operations. I knew how to sell. I knew how to motivate. And what I figured out was motivating the 16-year-old kid was the exact same concept as motivating the six-figure salary. And what you got to do is you got to figure out what is their motivation and provide that for them in a way that is profitable for the business, right? So one of the tenets of McDonald's is that and Ray Kroc said this, we are not a hamburger company. We are a people business. We happen to serve hamburgers. That's one of the tenets. And that comes to life in the franchise model, because the franchise model of McDonald's is something that's totally different than any other franchise that I've seen out there. The number one thing is they want their franchisees to be local. We are local to the restaurants. We're not allowed to live in a distant area, because the idea is if you go to McDonald's down here on Broad Street or down at Church or our new location at Veterans Parkway, you'll notice it doesn't say McDonald's on their uniform. It says McGuire Management on their uniform, because we are a management company that franchises McDonald's restaurants. The company owners and management staff, we live here with you. Our kids go to school with your kids. We go to church with you. We worship here. We live here. We play here. We pray here. This is our community, and we are helping our community by being in business and providing a service to the community, and also giving back to the community in every way we can. We are not some nameless, faceless organization out of Chicago. We are local. That's the biggest part of the McDonald's franchise that's different than a lot of the others. Also, we own our restaurants. So the franchise itself can be sold. So there is equity in the franchise. A lot of the franchises that I've looked at, my father even looked at other franchises when he was getting into the business, so that, even though he has ketchup in his veins and he understands that the Golden Arches is what has provided for his family all these years, he did have to, it's very wise to see what else is out there. And what he figured out was there's nothing better than the Golden Arches for our family. Because in a lot of those situations, you're basically a managing partner. You get profit sharing to run it. You're the operator. You're not the owner. In McDonald's, you are truly an owner-operator. The equity falls with you. I like to say, my employees think that I'm just, I show up on Tuesdays and I just kind of count the money and roll around in my cash, which anybody that owns a business knows that is not how it works. I liken it to a water fountain. Have you ever tried to catch water out of a water fountain? That's the way the money in McDonald's is. I'm trying to catch it, and all I can do is get my hands wet. That's it. I cannot catch any of it. The rest of it is going straight through. But anyway, so 2014, I come into the McDonald's system, work with my dad. We've got a 5-year plan. 2017, we experienced some major growth. There was a gentleman out of Centerville, Tennessee, who was selling 2 restaurants out of Centerville and White Bluff, and I went in and bought those. And then later in the year, McDonald's Corporation owned 5 restaurants here in Murfreesboro, where I live. Keep in mind, I had lived here since I was 15 years old. I grew up in Smyrna, went to school at Smyrna High School. But when I was 15 years old, I moved out of my parents' house and I moved here. Met my wife, we got married. I was 18 years old when we got married, and this was my home. Within several years, my entire family followed me from Smyrna, and they moved to the great city of Murfreesboro after telling me for years that I was an idiot for moving where the taxes were so high. They figured out that it's better over here. But anyway, so in 2017, in late 2017, the 5 restaurants that McDonald's Corporation owned that they had purchased from Mr. Mills came up for sale, and they wanted my father and myself to purchase those restaurants. And as soon as we decided and announced that we were going to buy those 5 restaurants, the other 4 restaurants here in Murfreesboro were owned by an organization out of Cookeville, Tennessee, and they came in and said, we've got an opportunity to buy some of the McDonald's Corporation stores further out of the city, and we don't want to have nothing to do with Murfreesboro if you're in there. We don't want to compete with you in Murfreesboro because we know how much you love that town. We know how much you consider Murfreesboro as your hometown, and you would do a whole lot better at running those stores than we would. So in 2017, we were able to purchase 9 restaurants in the same month. That was the most stressful day of my life. I'm driving to work that morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving to work, and I'm thinking, if I fail today, not only have I ruined my entire life savings and future, I have wiped out my dad's life saving and future. My sisters and my brother have nothing left. I was terrified about 4 o'clock in the morning, but it all worked out because what we found was the people that worked at those restaurants were fantastic people. We came in, we treated them right. The very first announcement we made is we won't be open on Christmas. I got a round of applause. They did not like that. They did not like having to work on Christmas Day. But anyway, so we kept growing, and then there was one restaurant left in Murfreesboro that we didn't own. And in 2020, I'll say 2019, I came up with an agreement with the owner of that restaurant. Mr. Mills built that restaurant. It's on South Church Street. It was owned by my friend Ted out of Hendersonville, and he had an agreement to sell it to me. But we had like a 6-month runway to be able to complete that transaction. Well, between the time we talked in late 2019 and the time I purchased it, something happened. And I thought I was going to go bankrupt. I had already resigned myself to going bankrupt. It was okay. We had, God had already told me that was going to be all right. I'm with you, and you will be fine, and all of your employees will be fine. Just take care of your people. So we started paying out bonuses. We started paying out time that they weren't working because the restaurants weren't open or were barely open. We were able to stay open during COVID, and eventually people figured out several months into it that drive-thrus are a wonderful thing, and it actually started being a boon for us. But, it was a scary time, but I had shaken my friend Ted's hand about buying that restaurant. So in June of 2020, I purchased a restaurant while thinking I'm going bankrupt. So I figure if you go big or go home, right? So, but at this point, I owned all the restaurants in Murfreesboro, and we have cornered the market in the Murfreesboro McDonald's space. And I would, if everything went south, Murfreesboro would be my last stronghold, because I would make sure to keep that for my family. I love running the McDonald's system. I love being Mr. McDonald's in Murfreesboro. It's a fantastic thing, isn't it? I mean, when people look to you, everybody wants to talk about snack wraps right now. That's all they want to talk about, which is great, because 6 months ago all they want to talk to me about was a shake machine. I don't want to talk about a shake machine, but everybody wants to talk to me. It's the same thing it was in 2000. I mean, it hasn't changed. Anyway, so I was in 2021, after having worked side by side with my father for many years, and he had taken several steps back and had been letting me run the company. In 2021, I was finally able to do something that made me extraordinarily proud, and that was to go to the bank and borrow the money to buy his equity out and bring him a check that represented his life's work. And that day was just extraordinarily proud for me and my wife. And I think I don't know who was happier, him or me, but looking back, I think the smile on his face these days, I think it's him. He looks a lot younger these days than he did back in 2020. Lots of stress going. But anyway, so getting back to the franchise system, McDonald's franchises run on what's called the three-legged stool. Makes it very unique. The three-legged stool was developed, and it's an equal partnership between the company, the owner-operators, and the suppliers. And that stool has to be balanced, and there's times, even within my career in McDonald's, where that stool has gotten out of balance. And when the stool's out of balance, we feel it, and the system suffers. Our sales go down, our customers feel it. I mean, we look at our brand as an iconic brand. Maybe not everybody in this room, but there's a lot of people out there, specifically the millennials generation, looks at us as a lesser brand. Right? We're the place where you go when you can't get anything better to eat. We're the place you go when you can't get a real job, right? But we've worked on that, we've been trying to work on that image so that you don't think, I have to go work at McDonald's. We want you to wake up in the morning and think, thank God I get to go and work at McDonald's today. Because what they don't understand when they're not in there is there's a lot of our customers that the only time that they see a smile during the entire day is when they come through our drive-thru in the morning. The only time they ever are in a clean area where there's a swept floor or a clean bathroom is when they're inside of our lobbies. Sometimes the only times that they ever get to speak to anyone throughout an entire day is when they interact with our crew people. So we really work with our crew, and it's been very difficult over the last several years because the working generation that's coming up, they don't know how to communicate. All they know how to do is this. This is how they communicate, right? And we're trying to teach them to put that down. Get those stupid earbuds out of your ear, because that does not, if you're listening to that music, then my customer that's standing in front of you is not your customer. They're not important to you. What's important is whatever you're listening to. if you're playing on your phone instead of cleaning, then you're not taking care of the area that customers come to be in. If you're listening to your music instead of talking to them in the drive-thru, then you're taking away part of the experience that they're coming here for, right? So we've really been working with our crew, and it's an ongoing battle. You work with the youth, you know. I mean, if you're working with these kids, it is a constant, everyday battle. And as soon as we get one trained up, they go on to something better, and we've got their little brother to deal with. And we got to teach them the same thing, right? But we love doing it. We love doing it. So, but we talk about the three-legged stool. When McDonald's Corporation works in balance with the owner-operators to understand what does the local customer want? What does your local customer want? And then let's make that happen with the power of our global brand. I always like to say, we are a small local business, but we are backed by the most powerful global brand in the world. And there are some things coming up that I can't talk about, but we are going to make food affordable. We're getting these prices down. We're going to figure out a way to get these prices down. Over the last several years, inflation has required that we charge way more for a Big Mac than I think that we should be paying for a Big Mac. It is comparable to all the other food out there, but we've got people that can't afford to eat. And there are people who, when they can't afford to eat anything else, they've been at least be able to come to us and get a little hamburger. And right now they can't afford to do that. So we're working on ways to make sure that that happens. Now, there's been a lot of those factors that have led to that, and we're doing everything we can to drive those prices down because we know it's good for our customer. And McDonald's is helping us with that because they're talking to us and saying, what do your customer want? What our customer wants is to be able to afford to eat here, right? Because they sure can't afford to eat it anywhere else in town. I mean, I look at my competitors' prices. I eat at my competitors' restaurants all the time. I couldn't afford to eat there. It's very expensive out there. Food is expensive. And the labor that it takes to put the food together is expensive. Everything about running a business right now is expensive. But we have come up with some things, and the company is working with us. And then we tap the third leg of the stool to make sure that we get the support from the third leg of the stool, and that's our suppliers. I'll go back to, anybody ever had a McChicken sandwich at McDonald's? I mean, there's some people here are not going to admit they ate at McDonald's, but if you've had a McChicken sandwich at McDonald's, it's one of my favorite sandwiches is the McChicken sandwich. I do know that when the McChicken sandwich was invented, and I couldn't tell you what year it was, but McDonald's went to Tyson and said, we have got to have a chicken sandwich that we can sell for under $1. So McDonald's Corporation listened to the owner-operators. Their local concern was affordability. They went to the supplier and says, we have got to figure out a way to sell a chicken sandwich for under $1. So Tyson went and figured out how that they could use product that they had and systems that they had to be able to sell a product that was low enough food costs that we could sell a chicken sandwich for under $1. Now we can't sell it for under $1 anymore, but we're still pretty close on the chicken sandwich. It's one of our least expensive items, and it's my favorite product, right? So that's just one way that our three-legged stool has worked together. But inside of the McDonald's system is kind of like its own government. It's got its own government hierarchy. One of the things that you're expected to do as a McDonald's owner-operator is participate in the system. We get a business review every year, and they go through and show, have you had reasonable participation within the McDonald's system and your restaurants? So personally, I might over-participate. We have a local business unit, but it's effectively a cooperative, an advertising cooperative, and we use that cooperative to talk about operations. We use it to talk about people practices. We use it to talk about, all kinds of other government relations, as well as marketing and PR. I serve as the vice president of our local co-op. Nationally, we have a governing body called the NFLA, the National Franchise Leadership Association. I've served in the NFLA for many years. With my technology background, I actually founded the technology organization with inside the McDonald's organization. It's a group of owner-operators that we work with the technology division or the IT division of McDonald's Global and McDonald's USA to develop things like the app. I mean, the app was one of the things that I worked on several years ago when I founded the technology organization. The loyalty program is a technology initiative. The digital menu boards that we have, which have made our life significantly easier. You remember taping the prices over the old translights every time you wanted to change your price? That was a pain.
It's also been probably difficult.
Oh yeah.
Taking stuff to implement.
Yeah, you couldn't really do anything. Your translights, they come out with a new product, they'd ship you a a see-through piece of paper that you got to go out there and put in every menu board. So we put in digital menu boards. It looks better, it's cleaner, it looks modern. And anytime we change a product, just flip a switch and it shoots it down over the internet. It's fantastic, right? So I founded the technology organization within the NFLA. I served as its chair for several years, turned that over, and I went to run the economics team. We look at the economics of everything from buying new equipment to remodeling our restaurants to putting in new floor tile to changing the drive-throughs and putting in new technologies. I also serve on the economics, it's called the marketing economics team of our advertising cooperative. We've got a national advertising cooperative called OPNAD, which has I don't want to lie, it's over $1 billion budget that we used to advertise nationally. So it's an amazing thing when we've got a local problem, like our customers are clamoring for, hey, bring back those snack wraps. During COVID, you took away our snack wraps, and that's one of the things that we came to McDonald's for. And they're like, bring back the snack wraps. So we finally get that message heard on a national scale, and the power of OPNAD comes out and starts advertising these snack wraps, and we've had some of the biggest days in our last 15 years because of snack wraps. Hey, if you've had them, they're fantastic, especially the spicy one. But anyway, so yeah, I participate. It's kind of like a little political organization inside the McDonald's system. It is its own little world, but I'm as proud as I can be to be part of the system. My wife works with me. We are definitely partners in every sense of the words. She runs our office. She is our director of administration. So anything from HR to payroll to workman's comp to insurance, all of that my wife handles for all of our companies. So I'll give you a little breakdown of how we're running. Your wife did that as well? I'll give you a little breakdown because if I've got 22 locations, currently I have 1,500 employees. Some people kind of gasp at that a little bit. It's a lot. And I do stay very busy. But I have set up my company a little bit different than my father did. My father ran 6 restaurants before I came in. And he was micromanaging every single little detail. I've always said, and I will continue to say, there was no better restaurateur than my father. My father was the best person to run a restaurant. I am not. I am not a good restaurateur. I am a great manager of people. So I have some of the best restaurateurs available on my staff. And I run these restaurants through them. So when I get that phone call of what in the world is going over here at Las Casas Pike, it's taking me 15 minutes to get through this drive-through, and I'm like, I am on it. I'm calling Teresa. What is going on at Las Casas? Teresa Munson, you remember her, right? Oh, yeah. My vice president of restaurants probably was the McDonald's representative that came in and graded Mr. Mills when he was in, because I hired her from out of corporate.
I love her.
So I run my staff with, I actually only have 5 people that report directly to me. And out of those 5 people, they manage 1,500 people. So I'd be glad to take any questions or anything else you want to talk about.
A couple minutes for questions.
Yep.
So how many of the 16-year-olds that you taught to push a broom have progressed through the system similar in your way to become franchisees and business owners in the same way you did?
I personally have not had a franchisee created out of my staff yet. I have trained 2 new franchisees. They came to me as what they call registered applicants, people who we've got the money, we're in the system, and we have to learn to run a restaurant so that we can purchase our own. I have trained 2 of those. I have had more than I can count people that I hired as 14, 15, 16-year-old kids and had to teach them how to use a broom that now have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, all of which we've paid for, by the way. If y'all didn't know about our MTSU partnership, every single one of our employees are eligible for free tuition at MTSU. The number of hours depends on how many hours they work for us. It is very equal. But if they want to go more hours to school than I'll pay for, they also get our special rate, which thank you to Dr. McPhee and the Board of Trustees. We have a special rate, the McGuire Management rate, that our employees get to use even if they're going more hours than we're paying for. I've got 3 of my immediate direct report staffs I hired as 15-year-olds.
Okay.
And they're let's just say they're all making six figures, we're doing good. They're doing very well.
I think Phil had one more question.
Love the app, love the 99
Thank you.
cent coffee, regardless of size. I use it regularly. Your coffee is 10 times better, well, 10 times as low compared to like a Starbucks. But years ago, I heard something that McDonald's was an indicator of the economy. When things were poor, sales were up because it was a good value meal, for lack of a better word. Or in other words, Coca-Cola sales would go down, but Kroger branded soft drinks would go up. Is there any truth to that?
There is truth to that because historically, if the economy was going down, people that could afford to go to, I'm going to date myself, O'Charlie's at the time, no longer could afford to go to O'Charlie's, but they could go to McDonald's. The people that went to McDonald's couldn't afford to go anywhere. They're packing a sandwich, right? You're packing a sandwich for lunch and I'm getting the O'Charlie's business. The problem is with the way that inflation has jumped up and there has been a lot of attacks on our specific brand because we are an iconic brand. Throughout COVID, I kept telling people, we have to stay open. Y'all think that it's not that important that we're serving Big Macs and chicken nuggets. But what you don't understand is the American psyche. If they see the arches go dim, then we've lost, right? We're already stuck out here and people are being told that they can't go to work. They're being told they have to wear masks in public. They're being told to stay away from each other. They're being deprived of physical contact, which I think is horrible because I think as humans we need physical contact. You know, I read an article the other day about the hug. I am a hugger. A 4 to 5 second hug before you go on stage will calm you down. Trust me, it is a scientific proven fact. We're depriving people of that, but if they see the arches go dim, all is lost because an American icon has gone dim. You might as well turn the Coca-Cola signs off because the American psyche is going to be like, civilization as we know it has ended, even if they don't come to us. So we have been under attack and had a lot of government, especially in California, attacks against our brand, forcing the minimum wage up, forcing us to pay more for labor than frankly it's worth. I mean, if you're trying to support a family of 5, you probably should not be working the starting wage at McDonald's. You should be the manager of McDonald's, and you'd be very well doing that. But with all the pressures, our prices with inflation have gone above inflation, and we're being attacked by our fast casual competitors. Like Chili's right now is really going after this. They're selling I shouldn't be advertising for them, but they're doing this thing where you can get they're calling it a quarter-pound burger because they're going directly after us, saying that we can give you all this for $10.99, including bottomless chips. And we're like, okay, we got to figure that out because of all the pressures that we've had, our reaction to be able to overcome those pressures has been to raise the price. And we've lost that competitive advantage to be able to take those people from a Chili's that can now afford us, and we're now competing directly with them. So we're about to take that competitive advantage back. And that's what I said, we're working on getting those prices down. There are other levers that we have got to be able to pull to be able to remain profitable while we've got these other pressures happening.
I think we'd be able to.
There's an article in the Wall Street Journal today, economically, speaking just what you're telling us about the prices and Chili's and what McDonald's has got to do. It's mentioned by name to get back to a meal that the people can afford.
Right.
So I also commend you for dealing with so many young people in your employment situation.
We'd be able to stay and answer a few
Absolutely.
questions. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.